What's up guys, Jez here from Whiskefy and welcome to another episode of WhiskefyTV. It is 124. God, we're just racking up the numbers every week. I love it. I always stop at that point and go, damn, can't believe I made it. So, 124. But this is a relatively fun episode because we have more of a kind of, I'll go whiskey vibe to it. This isn't my typical American bourbon-esque. In Sydney, they are running a whiskey festival-esque vibe where they're getting partnered bars to jump on board and host different events throughout the week. Now, this is Wednesday, you guys have basically missed everything, but you still have a few days to go. It's all leading up to Saturday where we have the Whiskey List, the Whiskey Show, and they will be like sampling out whiskies. Tickets have sold out for Saturday. I know Sunday's still available at this present moment in time anyway. So yeah, if anyone is there on Saturday, I can't wait to see you. Now we've got the important stuff out of the way. Let us crack into the cheeky little tasting. So I have my trusty Whiskefy glass right here. Now, this week's bottle is a bottle of Michters Small Batch Unblended American Whiskey. Now, let's get a cheeky little cork pop and we'll talk about it. That was, these cork pops, incredible. Okay, now we've got a pour going, getting this camera here. Finessed it. We are now 5 pours since last spill, so we're going to mark that sucker down on this piece of paper. Very exciting. Very exciting. Okay, so Michters Small Batch Unblended American Whiskey. It is 83.4 proof and 41.7% ABV. It is non-age stated because, you know, they're not putting anything on there. Mash bill is undisclosed, but I do have something on that, from what I remember. The cask is ex-Michters bourbon barrel, which is interesting because, as you can see, it is like Michters Small Batch Unblended American Whiskey. Right. And the price is $110 at Uncle Dan's at the moment on a members offer. Normal price about $120, and it is $46 US from Total Wine. That's if you can find it, because Michters products are in such high demand. Now, let us go into my expression, info, and notes. So, Michters Small Batch Unblended is one of those fun regular releases that you don't see distilleries release. I know me personally, for like American whiskey, they normally just run that one say charred American oak barrel, and then they tip it. They're like, send it off to wineries, send it off elsewhere. Michters do something a little different. Now, by definition, for it to be a bourbon, it must contain these certain guidelines that basically like everyone plays by. What I mean by that is it needs to be at least 51% corn. No, can't be distilled any higher than 160 proof. So 80%. Can't go into the barrel any higher than what they're going to call like barrel strength, which is 62.5% or 125 proof. It has to be made in the USA using new charred American oak. Very simple rules. There's a few other ones, but they are the main ones like they play with for bourbon. This was put in place by Congress and the Federal Standards of Identity of Distilled Spirits on the 4th of May, 1964. It's nuts, really wordy. This American whiskey has been called Unblended American Whiskey because it utilizes an ex-Michters bourbon barrel. So they're just getting the distillate, dropping it in that used bourbon barrel, and then aging it for a undisclosed period of time before the master distiller tastes it and go, yeah, she's going to be ready. Now, from memory, I want to say that they said it's bourbon, but it's not bourbon. So I don't believe they changed the mash bill, but everything's undisclosed. So I was just trying to remember the part of the tour, because I did go to Michters Distillery, try it, and then they explained everything to us, but at the same time I was too busy drinking, having a good time, than paying attention. I love you, Michters. You guys were amazing. Thank you. Now, that is it. So let's hook into this tasting. Now, as per usual, I was able to get a good grasp on the notes, flavor profiles, and everything else earlier. It's always an easier time when you're able to sit down, taste everything, do everything nice and slow, and make it all flow. So, just on the nose for this one. Straight off the bat, I was able to get this really interesting, dry, white wine note. It was not something I typically find in, say, American whiskey, but considering that like this isn't even like a finished say ex wine barrel or anything, it's just ex bourbon, there's like this really there's this white wine note to it that kind of just made me go, ah, okay, this is what's happening now, this is what we're doing. I'm also kind of getting this, maybe it's that fruits, or it's like this baked pastries and like baked goods note to it as well, typically on the sweeter side. It's also got your like bourbon kind of notes to it as well, where you like your caramels, your vanillas, and everything else that's normally associated with those kind of flavor profiles that you'd be tasting for an American whiskey, typically bourbon. You get distracted when you're doing this stuff for the taste. So I'm going to call this a medium viscosity. Could also be confused with a thick viscosity, which is interesting. Like, it's very borderline there for me. I've got this nice, I'm going to say spice. It's not really spice, it's more of a heat, just running down the side of my tongue there on both sides, and then just kind of coating that tip. And it's, I guess, lingering with that spice and making it feel all warm and fuzzy. Now, there's also another note there that I picked up earlier as I was giving it that Kentucky chew, and it was like toasted oak and like oak chips, like very specific. I was kind of getting that just as I like chewed it for like 30-40 seconds, and I'm just like, these are the notes I can pick up. Now, onto the finish. So, for the finish there, it's got this, I say, long finish. On that long finish, I want to say super wet oak. So the note, it's like a, I'm going to say wine. So I've got that dry kind of white wine note there, but it's super drying, and there's like this heavy oak. So like a oak aged wine, white wine vibe going on in the finish, and it's really palatable. I wasn't too sure, and like had a few more, and I'm like, do you know what? I can really get behind that finish. There wasn't too much else going on there. It's just white wine and oak. I'm like, hey, we're good here. This is a happy place to live. Now, onto my by, bar, or pass. Let us get it going. So, I want to kick it off and say those wine notes are funky as, and I can really dig them. It's not something I typically go for in saying that. I normally lean towards like Starward. I know there's like a heap of Starward haters in there, but it's just that wine finish. And once you get, or even more so like wine finished bourbons, people don't dig that. And I'm trying it. I'm like, do you know what? Finished bourbons are good. I can get behind that. Woodford Double Oaked all day. And you guys can't tell me you don't love it. So, on to the next one. It sips at 90 proof. And the reason why I say that, it just sips a lot hotter. A lot hotter than what you would typically think this is sipping at. It's only like 7 proof points higher, but it still counts at the end of the day. Now, the final one is the flavor profile on this is super underrated. It's just circling back to like the finished casks and everything else. I think more distilleries need to use ex-bourbon casks and just make American whiskey, because who doesn't want a double American whiskey? It's like double oaked. A lot of Woodford Reserve references this week. Who knows? That's Brown-Forman, pay me. Now, that's all I'm giving you. But yeah, that's it. Super underrated, which makes me gonna smash that buy button because it's just underrated. Like, no one's talking about this. Why is no one talking about it? I have no idea. It's just delicious juice. I don't know what more to say. It's $110, delicious juice. It's priced a bit high for the proof, but it's non-age stated. See, it's tricky. But I'm still going to say buy because it's good. Like, I like it. I'd sit there and sip it all day. It's off palate for me, but it's decent enough for me to enjoy it. So I am going to wrap it up there because we're just about to hit 14 minutes, but we'll chop that up. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, because I enjoy filming it. Please support your local bars this World Whiskey Week in Sydney and I guess globally. Make sure you guys get a pour on Saturday because you can't go wrong with supporting your local bartenders and local bars as well. So thank you guys. Love y'all. Stay thirsty and enjoy your Whiskey Wednesday. I'm Jez. Peace. Love y'all.